lucky to have these platforms that are free that we can earn so much money from.
I think also the hardest part is opportunities can be endless, but my God, you have to keep up with the change.
I grew up with Instagram in my hand, but even now I'm starting to use it differently. So if I need something, rather than searching on Google, I'll search on Instagram.
Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. So I'd like to kick this off by saying a big thank you to today's sponsor, which is Casita Properties, the UK leading company when it comes to off-market discreet buy-to-let sales. I welcome Georgia Aldridge to my channel. It's a pleasure to have you on. Georgia, you're taking social media by storm.
Giving it a good try.
Absolutely. You're everywhere at the moment, and we're going to cover off everything to do with the possibilities on social media. But before we do, if you could give us an overview of who you are and what you do.
So this is like the biggest question I fear when people ask me stuff, because although I'm on Instagram every single day, all of my content is videos of me. I hate talking about myself. But I feel like with what I do, it kind of just came out of the blue, which I think is often the best way when you're starting a business. I feel like I spent so many years like hunting for a business idea and like hunting for like something to dig my teeth into. But obviously now I just do like social media coaching, social media management. I help a lot of brands really like scale their accounts and things like that, and just really try and show people that social media isn't this toxic, negative, like really bad place that I feel like it's almost getting a stigma as. And obviously I see the reasons, but I think we're so lucky to have these platforms that are free that we can earn so much money from, and you can now start a business with little to no capital. Like, it's incredible. So that's basically what I do.
Yeah, I think it's the way you approach it, isn't it? Which is what we're going to touch on, because it can be really toxic.
Yeah.
It can be, you know, it can have such a negative impact on like people's mental health. But that is very much, I suppose it's the way that you go into it, isn't it?
100%.
If you approach it that way. And I actually switched the name. I don't know if you ever talk about this or refer to it, but I don't like calling it social media. I prefer to refer to it as like my business page.
Yeah.
So about who I am and what I do and the value, or how someone could work with me. So is that something, you know, you could try and tell people is, look, don't get too caught up in the vanity side of it?
1,000,000%. And I think it's the same as in like a social scenario, right? If you surround yourself with people who are really negative or always talking badly about people, then you're going to become that. So it's the same with your Instagram, your TikTok, whatever it is. If you're following people that are, you know, perhaps always posting negative things and like bashing things, or on the other hand, who are showing this perfect life that isn't real, then of course that's what you're going to start feeding into. But for me, I only follow accounts that either motivate me, inspire me, or mostly that actually teach me something. Like, I think social media has now really become a platform to educate people. Like, that's obviously what I'm trying to do with my pages, is give people education. And I follow so many pages that I learn something new from every single day.
Yeah, and you can limit what you are exposed to. Like, you know, I suppose there is no excuse really, because if you are consuming negative things, there is an option to
unfollow them.
To unfollow them or even block that content from showing up. So before we come back onto kind of that mindset and the approach of social media, let's talk about the positives and the possibilities, because there are so many opportunities on many platforms. We've been talking about TikTok. I've spent a lot more time on TikTok. I've had a video do well, a few videos do well. Paul, the sponsors, had a video do well. So it almost inspires you and motivates you to do more, because you're thinking, like, if enough work and consistency is put in, something could happen. So let's talk about like the real possibilities right now.
Well, like for me, I just think that it's like anything, the more you put into it, the more you get out, right? So if you're willing to put the time into it, then, you know, you'll get it back. So to give you an example, like, I personally don't like to talk about figures in a sense of, like, there's so many social media managers and coaches out there that go, I earn this every month and you can do the same, and they're probably lying because they're trying to gain more clients. But like, for me, to be totally frank, my whole business is on Instagram. I'm not really on any other platform. Like, I've tried a bit of TikTok. I need to get into the habit of doing it. Like, you know, it doesn't just happen overnight. I've obviously got a podcast. I don't do anything else. So my whole business runs solely on Instagram. I've never paid for any form of ads, marketing, influence, anything like that. And I'm earning more money than I've ever earned in my life. So I think that's the possibility, is that, as I said at the beginning, you know, you don't need to have a load of capital behind you. You don't need investors to start businesses anymore. Like, you know, of course, depending on what you want to do. But I think the possibilities are just endless. It's just about how hard you're willing to work.
Yeah. Oh, some massive points there. I mean, opportunity in my eyes at the moment it's endless if you are willing to stick with it. And I think also the hardest part is opportunities can be endless, but my God, you have to keep up with the change, because things are changing so much. I mean, I watch some of your stories and you're like, by the way, Instagram's just changed this.
Yeah.
You know, like the Instagram's changed and things are moving so quickly. And I think also platforms suddenly just appear. I mean, do you remember like Clubhouse? Like that just came out of nowhere.
Yeah, and do you remember like Vine years ago? Like, I don't know where that went. And as I just said with TikTok, you know, TikTok's not that new anymore. And even someone like me whose job is social media, like it still does take a while to transition and move from one platform to another and really learn another platform. Like I have clients come to me that say like, talk to me about the TikTok algorithm. And I say, you're going to have to go to someone else because I'm not clued up enough yet to advise people. So there's definitely always changes. I think for me, it's about when you're first starting out, not like picking one platform. So a lot of people say, right, I'm going to start this business and I really want to be on YouTube, Instagram, TikTok. And I go, right, slow down, choose one, whatever one you think is going to be best for you, your target audience. And then once you've got that down and it's like a working wheel and you're not, you know, you're doing it subconsciously and whatever, then move on to the next. Like I now do Instagram in my sleep. I don't have to remember to post stories. I don't have to remember to post and do all these things. Like it's just now ingrained in me. So now's the time for me to try and move on to something like TikTok, not a year ago when I was still finding my feet.
Yeah, it's a really smart approach, because I think if you try and take on too much, I mean, my God, I've had this conversation so many times where you hear people, they get like this excitement and they reel off all those platforms. We've been there. It's an absolute burnout. Like, and you lose focus and you don't really know what's working. I mean, we were talking off camera about the TikTok algorithm. I haven't got a clue. And I've interviewed some TikTokers who have done really well, over 500,000 blue tick. And I speak to them and I'm like, what's the algorithm about? And they're like, we still don't know. Just all you can fall back on is consistency. And, you know, they dominated that platform. And I think it's really important, like you say, is if you are starting out on social media, you try to build that brand business, focus on it, get it down to a T, make it a habit. Like you say, you're doing it in your sleep, and then start to look at another platform.
Can't physically put 100% into everything. So you spread yourself too thin. And it's the same as like lifestyle, right? If in your life you decide, I want to start changing habits, okay, so I want to start waking up at 5:30 a.m, I want to start going to the gym, I want to start eating healthier. If you try and change all three of those habits at once, you're never going to do it. Like you have to do one at a time. And it's the same in your business, I think.
Yeah, it is. I think you can end your drive very quick by putting too much on your plate. And I do get it, you know, because we've all been there before. Like, you know, these kind of conversations are normally happening with circles around entrepreneurs. So we understand it, like, you know, that spark. But at the same time, it's, you know, it's taking like piece of advice like this and just slow down and pick that one platform.
And as you said a minute ago about, you know, like really taking the time and understanding. I had a client this morning, to give an example, and luckily we don't know when this is going to go out, so she's not going to know that I'm talking about her. But I had a client and she's like, oh, my page isn't doing well, I'm not posting consistently, I'm not doing this, I'm not doing that. And I said, okay, well, you've just answered your own question. That's what you need to be doing. And she said, I just don't have the time. And it takes me back to, you know, like when you're young and you're seeing someone and they go, I haven't got time to see you. And you say, well, you obviously, I'm not a priority then. It's the same with your business. If you're telling me you've not got enough time to put into just posting on Instagram, then it's because you're not valuing it enough, and it's maybe because you haven't seen the results yet. And once you start seeing the results, then of course you'll value it more. But for me, like, that also drives me mad when people say to me, I don't have time for it, because you do. How much time do you spend watching Netflix in the evening? Or like for me, like I spend like an hour and a half in the bath till it goes stone cold. Like I don't need to do that. Like, you know, we all do waste time. It's just management, isn't it?
A lot of us procrastinate, but I will second everything you've just said. And to anyone watching, that's one of my bugbears, is hearing people when they're like, I haven't got time.
Yeah.
Everyone has time. And something that really gets on my gripe is when, you know, you're trying to connect with someone or message someone, and you know someone replies to you weeks later and they're like, I just didn't have time. I don't care how busy you are, the size of your business, everyone can take 30 seconds out to reply.
Yeah.
And I think that is the shortfall between those that will be successful. And it is the approach. I bet half those people that you have these conversations with that turn around and say I haven't got time is because they're still viewing it as a vanity page, social media.
Yeah,
It's not. It's a
bizarre.
potential business opportunity. And like if you nail it on the head, like, you know, when we talk about YouTube, and we were talking off camera, is that I've literally seen figures. I know you can watch it on YouTube and you see what people earn, but I've physically seen people that I know that are earning like $500,000.
Yeah.
That's not a joke. And if you try and tell someone on the street, oh, by the way, if you quit your job and you start a YouTube channel, you could earn $500,000, they'll be like, what a load of rubbish.
Yeah.
I haven't got time for that, and it's not possible. You need to see it to believe it, don't you?
Yeah, of course you do. Of course you do. And that's what makes it more bizarre for me, because that person has just paid me for a coaching session to come on the coaching session to tell me you've not got time. Like, so what are you paying me for then? Like,
Yeah.
So that is the biggest bugbearer for me. And I think you are right. It often as well, I think a big struggle at the minute with a lot of my clients is older generations coming to me who have had their businesses for years and are now freaking out because they don't understand social media. They are kind of seeing the worth of it and they're trying to almost play catch up. And I'm seeing that a lot, that people are starting to feel like they're being left behind. And I think you will be if you're not putting everything into it.
Yeah, it's something that I mentioned with another guest, and I really, really believe this is validation. Like, a lot of people, whether they're going to work with someone. So, for example, if I was going to work with you, I wouldn't just work with you because someone referred you, although that would be a massive help. But I would then do my own research to validate what someone has told me is true. So I'd be looking to see, right, when did Georgia last post? What's she doing? Who's she working with? And if you haven't posted for a week and a half, I'm going to be thinking, well, how's she going to tell me to do Instagram? She's not uploaded a story.
Exactly.
So everyone's looking for validation. And you're absolutely right. There are companies and businesses and individuals that are thinking, oh my God, I'm not on social media. I'm going to get left behind. That's what happened in the pandemic, right?
Yeah, well, I think people use social media as a whole, especially Instagram, in a really different way now. So people are using it as a search engine. So me, for example, you know, I'm 25 in a couple of weeks. So I grew up with Instagram in my hand, but even now I'm starting to use it differently. So if I need something, rather than searching on Google, I'll search on Instagram. So let's say, for example, I need a birthday cake. I'll type in on Instagram, birthday cake, Essex, or, you know, hairdresser, Loughton, or like whatever it is. Same as with me. So many people find me because they type in social media coach or social media manager. So I think that's why it's so important as well. Like, I wouldn't think, even with hotels, you know, if I'm going on holiday, I'll search the hotel on Instagram. I don't search it on Google anymore. So I feel like it really is just taken over.
Yeah, I think some people who have been left behind, I think also there's this, they don't want to admit it yet, because I would imagine it's quite hard to admit you're so far behind. I think when you get a coach and you know, and people like yourself, I think you can speed up that process. And I think that's something people do need to be aware of, is that if they're looking at social media and it's quite daunting and thinking, oh no, I need to be on it, but I don't want to admit to myself I don't know where to begin. That's where you go and get a coach and, you speak to people and say, this is where I need to be. I don't really know what to do.
Yeah, and obviously what a coach does is all of the mistakes that I made when I was starting out, because I didn't have a coach, and all that extra time I spent because I'm like fixing those mistakes or whatever, you now don't have to do that because I'm going to tell you exactly what you need to do. So I think it 100% speeds up the process.
Yeah. Let's talk about paid ads versus organic growth, because this is something obviously we spoke about just before we started, is my original account and where I would have been now. I did pay for certain paid ads on certain posts that did naturally well, and I thought, well, I'll give them an extra boost. Whereas now on my channel, because I've seen how easy it is for an Instagram to be taken away with no chance of getting it back, although I did try my hardest, is that I'm really against paying for ads. So what's your views on someone watching this thinking, okay, cool, I'm going to attack social media, but do I pay for ads or do I not?
For me, paid ads can work. They do work, you know, great if you've got a bit of spare money, you want to invest in that. However, the issue that I see is that so many people don't put the work into their content and think, right, I need to get my engagement up, or I need to speed up my business, so I'm going to pay for a bunch of ads. When actually, if your page is not up to scratch, you could put thousands upon thousands, if not more, into paid ads. If someone clicks on that ad and comes onto your page and your content's neither here nor there, your page isn't great, you haven't posted in 2 weeks, but you've just paid for a sponsored ad or whatever, they're not going to follow you anyway. So that has to come first. For me, I've only ever paid for 2 ads. They were both for £40. They were both in January this year because I just thought this year I'm going to give it a go. So really, I've grown nearly a 40,000 strong following from just my content. So that's where I talk about how lucky we are now. And this is where, when Reels came in, it really accelerated that, because obviously we know that Reels reach, you know, a whole new audience of people who don't follow you and can view your content. Whereas obviously if you're just posting pictures and stories every day, the only people really seeing them are your current followers. So if you're able to just invest that time and post a reel a day, like that's what I try and do. I try and post a reel every single day, which sounds like a hell of a lot of work. And look, I say to my clients every day, if someone comes to me and they maybe post once a week, it's completely unrealistic for me to say to them, right, as of tomorrow, I want you to post a reel every single day, or even post anything every single day. So I say start small. You know, if you can post at least 3-4 times a week and have half of them being reels and build up to it, and you'll get the growth that I have. So it's not that I'm against paid ads. I just think, why would I pay when I can do it myself for nothing?
For free.
Yeah.
That's the way that I look at like education. Like I'm all self-taught, so everything I do now, I've been self-taught. I haven't paid for education, you know, and I've just put the work in and I've just figured out. And like you know, you learn along the way the mistakes, and you're able to then tell other people, don't do what I did, and it will speed up your journey. And something, you know, like Reels, we know that has a massive reach. It's so easy as well now. I know we spoke about TikTok, but you know, TikTok has its kind of like watermark, but there, you know, someone told me about a website that you can
take it off.
you can just take the water, and then you can literally go from TikTok to a reel and then to a YouTube short in a matter of minutes. Like I'm hitting all 3 platforms, and it's crazy. And like one of my shorts that I did on YouTube did something like 38,500, literally like that, and it was crazy. And I just took that from another one. So
yeah, it's all about repurposing your content to save time, because for me, someone that is watching you on YouTube, so I saw this actually, it was a conversation with Stephen Bartlett, because have you seen on Spotify now, you can obviously put the full podcast videos and things like that. And he'd posted on his Instagram that they had a conversation about it because, you know, would they do that? Because then they might lose YouTube views, and obviously they get paid for their YouTube views, blah, blah, blah. And actually, the person that's listening on Spotify is not the person that's watching on YouTube. So the person that's watching your Instagram Reels is not watching your YouTube. So you can just constantly repurpose your stuff. Like it's the same with me, you know. We were speaking offline. I'm not into YouTube. I don't watch it. So I wouldn't have seen it. So if you're posting your YouTube videos on Instagram too, that's great for me, because now I'm still getting to see the amazing content that you're creating.
Yeah, it's funny though, isn't it? Like you just hit the nail on the head there. Such a valid point is that instead of worrying about what you're going to lose, is actually if someone's listening to it on Spotify, it's because they're probably commuting. They can't sit there and watch. So they're listening to that podcast audio type because that's what they have to do. Or
that's their habit. Like, as I say, like, you know, I've just always had Spotify, so that's naturally where I listen to podcasts. Other people listen to them on Apple Podcasts for free. Like, I don't know why I don't do that, but Spotify is my habit. Instagram is my habit. TikTok is not at the minute. So,
and there's no conversion rate. This is what's really odd, and it's funny, and that's kind of why I've kind of steadily grown all different platforms, and I've done it. You know, in a capability that I could, you know, like we were saying, without getting overwhelmed. Is that there is no conversion rate. You could have 100,000 on Instagram and you start a YouTube channel and you will be as slow as anyone else that starts a YouTube.
Oh,
it's weird. Like you say, if they're loyal to that platform, they're loyal to that platform.
1,000,000%. Like even with Instagram pages. So I've had my podcast since last October, but I only last month started a separate podcast page. Trying to convert my followers over there is a nightmare. So it's true. And even with TikTok, like when I started my TikTok page, I obviously put my link on my story. I've got like 94 TikTok followers. Like it's not even funny.
Yeah. It's crazy. And that just goes to show that the audience are on the platform because that's the platform that they're enjoying. So you have to cater for everyone. When it comes down to future platforms, I don't know how much you stay in the know, but I suppose this is something we're always wondering is what's the future like. We heard Gary Vee say not too long ago, TikTok, and this was said maybe 4 or 5 weeks ago, that TikTok has like an 18-month lifespan left. You know, like, how do we know when a platform's about to die or when we need to start looking at the new platform? Like Clubhouse came out of nowhere. I mean, I'm not interested in Clubhouse now, but it came out of nowhere. And everyone who jumped on it instantly grew massively.
Yeah, it's weird because I saw there was one, I can't even remember what it's called. There was something the other day and I think it was meant to be something like a Clubhouse. And I saw like Gary Vee talking about it. And like, something, and I'd never heard of it. And then straight away I messaged my assistant and I was like, what is this? And do I need to be on it? Because now we are so keen to jump on things. But for me, I feel like we seem to get a new platform, like a new major platform every 5 to 7 years. So we're probably kind of due one in a couple of years' time. But I'm not worried about Instagram currently because they're always updating. They're always trying to keep up with the other platforms. Like, they're so on it, like every day. Even just now, I was writing a note to make a video of this new Instagram update that just got announced yesterday and things like that. So they're so on it. So I think if there's a platform that seems to be sort of staying the same, then that would worry me a little bit. I'm not really sure, but they will just come out of nowhere, the same as TikTok. Like, it just comes from nowhere. So I think we'll just have to wait and see.
And you hear people talk about it, and, you know, I'm guilty for it as well. And you think, well, I'll have a look in a bit. And the people who were on it.
Now we're both playing catch up.
Yeah, I know. I'm looking at some people that I remember looking at TikTok in the beginning and watching some people and thinking, God, what are they doing? And then now you look at them in the light, they're like 4 or 5.
Yeah, did you see that on Netflix? There was a show, it was called like Hype House, and it's all these like 17 to like 20-year-olds that all live in this mansion and just make stupid TikToks all day and all drive like Rolls Royces. Like, it's crazy. And we would have laughed at them at their stupid dance moves or whatever. And now I feel like I want to go and bloody learn to dance.
Oh, I know. That's the point. When do you break character and potentially credibility for like the short-term gain? And I think, you know, we were talking about that again off camera, is like, do you potentially ruin that credibility? I mean, for me, you know, if I was to go and do a stupid dance or something, and like an investor or someone in finance was to look at it and they'd be like, Aaron, what were you doing?
Yeah, no, look. So I think you've got to, it sounds so cliche, but you have just got to be yourself, because one day you will have to break that if you're not being yourself, and people will end up seeing it. And I think for me, like, I just try and be really organic, and I just try and not live this like everything's always going well life and whatever. That one other thing that I would say about social media platforms is that obviously video has completely taken over. Like, we know that. I do personally think that picture is gonna really die. Like, I really feel like uploading pictures to your grid is gonna just become a thing of the past. So the one thing I'm constantly telling people is that if you are not on video, like, you have to, like, it's an absolute must. Even if you really struggle to be in it yourself, start somewhere and build up to it, because I think that is going to be the major thing that makes people fall off.
People want to hear and see you now. Like, I mean, look, we've got 3 cameras on us, and if we went back 4 or 5 years, we probably wouldn't be doing this ourselves, because again, it'd all be the photos. Do you think there's an element as well? I really believe this. I think it makes someone stand out, especially when I look at a page, is when it looks aesthetically pleasing and there's a pattern to the page. Whereas I find pages that it's a crazy profile, that, you know, like the actual bio is long letters, long writing, like it looks a bit jumbled, and then the grid, food, dog, baby, house, holiday. Do you find that channels do, or pages do better when they're more structured opposed to craziness?
Do you know what? It's funny, this question, because if you would have asked me this end of last year, my answer would have been totally different. So last year I would have said that it's not about what your page looks like, it's about the content, because I think a lot of people were at one point getting caught up in this grid aesthetic, that they would post, let's say for example, some like graphic post as a filler, because it looked good there, but then you're almost holding back. So let's say, for example, you just recorded an amazing podcast, but you have this pattern that you post a video and then a reel and then a something else.
That's me right now, by the way.
Oh no.
That is literally
Right,
me
so,
right now.
Right, so here's how I'm going to coach you. So then you almost are going to hold back that really great video you've got because it's not what you're meant to post next. Do you see what I mean? So I do still believe that. However, the way that I've changed it this year is that with the grid aesthetic, I'm still all for it. So when you look at my grid, you know, it's really well branded. So for me, it's more about branding. You know, when you spoke about the bio, that's super important to have a really clear bio, really clear highlights for it to all look slick and be branded to whatever that is for you. That's important. And then down onto your grid, of course, you know, you don't just want to be posting your dinner tonight and things like that. So I think as long as everything's like branded up, it doesn't really matter what order stuff's going in. I always try and just post whatever the most valuable piece of content I have in my phone right now, that's my next post.
Right.
And that's the way I try and work it. And realistically, nothing you post is going to be bad quality, right? Nothing you post is not going to be worth it as such. So then it doesn't really matter what order it goes in. Your grid's never going to look terrible because everything's high quality.
Yeah, that's a very valid point. I mean, I am guilty of.
I actually feel really bad now, but
no, don't feel bad at all. It's again, it's kind of like it's what fits in with my lifestyle. I haven't got time, Georgia, but no, you know, it's what works. But yeah, I think it's important. I think more for those that look at my page, I want to make sure that I'm always kind of in that grid professionalism. But you know,
I think it's industry dependent as well, you know.
Exactly.
Like I see some people and they're trying to have their pages more as like a portfolio of something. Maybe they're in property or they're in, you know, fashion or what, and their page is like very like set layout and you can really see it, and they're trying to be creative with that. So like, sure, but I think for me, I'm educational. You know, I also really try and steer away from graphic posts. I personally don't engage with them, so I don't expect my followers to engage with them. I also think they can really look like adverts, so people just tend to naturally scroll past them. So that's why for me, like, reels are always going to be king right now.
Yeah, well, you heard it there first. I mean, there was huge value. Georgia, I can't thank you enough for coming onto the channel.
Thank you for having me.
I know that a lot of viewers would have taken so much value. So where can people go to reach out to you?
So people can find me on Instagram. So I've just recently changed my name. So it's at GEO Aldridge. I'm not going to spell it because I'll be here all day trying to pretend write it in the air. So yeah, find me on Instagram and you'll be able to see all of my content.
Awesome. Well, again, thanks so much for coming on. And everyone who's watched so far, thanks for joining us, and we'll see you all very soon.